Hi everybody, my name is Brady and I'm a 19th century American historian and we are back with another React video. And today we're going to be doing more salmonella, but before we get started, I am going to give a shout out to the newest channel member. Thank you to Lachlan McPhee, hopefully I'm saying that correct. Thank you for becoming a channel member, and if any of you want to become a channel member, we have badges, we have emojis, we have a Q&A every month. There is a link to do so in the description box below. Now, let's get into the video. So, like I said earlier, today we're going to be doing a salmonella video on South Sudan, the world's newest country. I thought that was a really interesting concept, but I did have to Google to make sure South Sudan was still the world's newest country, because who knows what could have happened between when this video came out and now, so I just had to be sure about that. And according to my Google search, it is still the newest country, so that works out pretty well there. So that part at least holds up, which is much better. I'm excited about this. I know vaguely of Sudan, that it is a country in Africa, and that South Sudan broke off of that, and that's about it. So, anything in this video is probably going to be new to me, so I'm excited to check this out and see what Sam's got to teach us today. So, let's get it started.
Hey kids, today I'm going to talk about South Sudan. It's the newest country in the world, becoming fully independent just in 2011, so I'm going to explain why the state came into being and what it's like there today. So to understand why South Sudan exists, you kind of have to know a bit about Sudan as a whole. So before 1956, Sudan was under the joint control of Egypt and Britain. At the end of 1955, they gave a declaration of independence and became their own thing. The independence movement.
That's really interesting here. First of all, the fact that it was under joint control, as far as colonialism goes, is rather interesting and something I would love to learn a little bit more about, how they maintain control. Was there a hierarchy between Egypt and Great Britain? I don't know that much about how you would work out that sort of a system where two countries are ruling over them at the same time, but okay, that's really cool. And if we ever got another new country, which we will, if I were a betting man, I would put money on it being a colony breaking off, because there's still plenty of remnants of colonialism, and that's usually a nice bet to take when it comes to countries breaking off. It's much more likely that you'll get that than something connected to like the mainland of a country break off.
1955, they gave a declaration of independence and became their own thing. The independence movement, however, was led by this guy, Ismail al-Azhari, and he was like, hey everybody, we are an Arab-oriented Muslim nation. But then 8 million Sudanese black people were like, whoa now, hold your camels, Ishmael. Us Africans, we ain't all about your Allah. He was like, yeah, well, who cares? Oh, I see. So they got into...
Hold on one second. Let me just pull something up. So here's South Sudan on Google Maps, and I love playing with this. Ever since I've gotten into GeoGuessr, I've been visiting Google Maps more. The fun thing about Africa, if you zoom in, you look at the names here in South Sudan, you'll, if you're an American like me, you're probably going to have a little bit of trouble reading this, but you at least recognize the lettering. But then you go up here, ooh, what do we got here in regular Sudan? We got I don't know if it's like Arabic. Sometimes I have trouble telling the difference between like Arabic and Persian and stuff, but you get a lot of that across the northern African countries. Like if you travel across the top and you zoom in a little bit here, that's what you'll end up finding. But like the further down you go, the language tends to change here. So I've learned this from GeoGuessr. Whenever I see language like that, I used to be more inclined to go to the Middle East, but now I always make sure to consider, okay, but is this in Africa? So that's something I've learned recently, so that's cool. Geography is great.
to a civil war between the primarily Arab-Muslim North and the traditionally oriented African South. That went on for 16 years until finally the North's like, alright, fine, you can do your thing. Like, you're still part of Sudan, but you can govern yourself for the most part. We'll take our falafels elsewhere. And that peace treaty lasted 11 years, from 1972 to 1983.
Yeah, clearly that's not going to work out.
Like, well, things aren't that bad now, but the Arabs still technically control us, so it could get worse. And I'm not in the mood for any Sharia law anytime soon, so we should probably go back to fighting. So then there was another civil...
This, I always have to bring it back to American history because it's what I know, and I think of, like, the American Revolution, where there are those connections made between Britain and the American colonies. There's definitely some similarities there, but when a group becomes so used to governing themselves, like the Americans, seemingly like the South Sudanese, any attempts to step in and take that back is going to be seen very defensively. Like, people are going to respond very poorly to that sort of stuff. You can't give somebody a certain level of freedom and then try to take it back. So Sudan really has no hope of inching back into controlling South Sudan at this point. I think it can only get worse for them.
Any Sharia law anytime soon, so we should probably go back to fighting. So then there was another civil war, which was basically a continuation of the first one, and that ran on from 1983 all the way to 2005, when finally the two sides made a comprehensive peace agreement, which led to South Sudan becoming totally self-governing in 2006. Then after 5 more years of fiddling around with paperwork, South Sudan became a fully fledged independent nation in 2011. So notice how there were 2 civil wars before the South gained independence. I guess you could say 2 coups make a Sudan. So now that they finally got what they want, it must be great to live in South Sudan now, right? No, not really. It's actually just about the worst place you could ever choose to live in. Seriously, if somebody gave me the choice of moving to South Sudan or living the rest of my life with my dick inside an anthill, I'd be slathering on the honey before they even finish their sentence. Let me talk about a few reasons South Sudan sucks so bad. First, let me talk about ethnic groups. Europe, as we all know, contains a lot of ethnic groups. Scots, Serbs, Slovaks, Slovenes, Spaniards, Swedes. And those are just the big ones that start with S. There's like 100 others. The same is true with Africa. There are thousands of localized ethnic groups sprinkled all over the continent, whether or not you could tell from first glance. As such, South Sudan is home to a bunch of different peoples, each with their own languages and customs.
So this is a thing, and I talked about how if I was a betting man, I would say that the next country comes out of colonialism. Well, if I was able to make a second bet, if I was to power rank the possibilities, the second one would be, and this might even be more likely, minority groups in larger nations breaking off because ethnically, culturally, they're so much different from everyone around them, and they want that national identity, I guess, validated in the form of their own country, to be an kind of insular, self-governing ethnic group. So I kind of get that as well. Now that I think about it, that might be way more likely than my original theory.
And these groups have a long history of disagreeing with each other, like they don't get along much. So that's one thing. Second, remember how South Sudan was at war with the North for basically all of the past half a century? Well, as a result, the whole place is pretty geared for war and not much else. Their infrastructure is abysmal, and they've got all these guns just lying around waiting to be shot at something. Third, South Sudan has a bunch of oil reserves in different locations around the nation. And we all know how much people like oil. Everybody wants control of whatever wells they can get. So between these 3 things, the whole place is basically one big whirlpool of chaos. At any given time, the South Sudan...
Sorry, I saw a flag and I got excited. That's like 2 colors more than I was ready for. Hold on. Okay, I know I keep pulling away from these things, but everyone's okay. That's kind of a cool flag. The blue seems a little bit weird. I kind of like how the star is tilted a little bit. A little mini flag review here. It's not going to get its rating here or anything, but I just wanted to take a good look at that. That's an interesting flag. All right, back to the video. Sorry I keep interrupting for stupid things.
government is at war with at least 7 different armed groups from around the country, each of which is also at war with the other groups. And if that's not
Oh,
enough
that's a
of a
mess.
shitstorm, the government ended up basically splitting in two in 2013. This is what happened. So you've got the president, his name is Salva Kiir, and yes, he does actually wear a hat like this. It was a gift from George Bush, true story. And then the vice president, his name is Riek Machar. I'm probably saying those wrong, but it's fine. They don't have internet in South Sudan, so nobody can call me out here. So anyway,
Oh,
Salva
man.
Kiir, he's very aware of the fact that the country's in a very precarious spot at the moment. So he starts taking greater control of the government and the military, dismissing old people and installing those that he sees fit. And so Riek Machar, he's like, well, gee whiz, Salva Kiir, for someone who calls himself a president, that's pretty dictatory of you. Well, for someone who calls himself the vice president, that's pretty annoying assholey of you. Sir, all I'm saying is, I'm getting pretty sick of you and that gay hat of yours. I'm not wearing a hat. As president of South Sudan, I order you to put on a hat. Yeah, see? That hat's gay. You're wearing the exact same hat. Alright, fuck you. You're out of a job. Wait, what? Yep, you and your whole cabinet. Get out. Okay, I made a...
I mean, the lack of order would create some sort of a vacuum where it would be pretty easy for a leader to, it's all good, to step in. And I'd imagine if you're powerful enough to establish order, even if it's with an iron fist, I get how that could end up happening here. It definitely does not sound like the most appealing place. From the sound of it, yeah, the foundation wasn't really the best thing to work with. I'd imagine this country is going to need a little bit of time to establish stability. Though it's been about 4 years at least since this video came out. I didn't check the exact date, but who knows? Maybe it's different now. It's not different now, is it? Damn.
Up the part about the hat, but the rest of that is true. Also, I should mention that Kiir and Machar come from 2 different ethnic groups. See, Kiir is a Dinka,
that's the
whereas
problem.
Machar is a Newer, which only heightened the tensions between the two. So after Machar got the boot, he ended up taking a chunk of the military with him, most of which were Newers like him, and they started a rebellion against Kiir's government. This is known as the South Sudan Civil War, and it's still going on.
I feel like
to
I've
this
heard
day.
of that.
So yeah, to sum it up,
Yeah.
if you looked up clusterfuck in the dictionary, well, you wouldn't find anything because clusterfuck isn't a real word. But if it was, there would probably be a picture of South Sudan next to it. Seriously, this place makes Hotel Rwanda look like Hotel California. And throughout it all, there's still a bunch of hardworking individuals just trying to make a living, farming or herding or whatever. But the constant warfare makes it so the average person has to live in virtually Stone Age conditions. Which sucks, but, what can you do? So that's the story of the world's newest nation, kids. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that a lot of the newer nations are a little bit more unstable. I don't know what's the newest one before this, but it takes time, especially with how long that civil war was. It was remarkably long. So I get it. They're militarized. Their infrastructure sucks. Okay, that totally makes a whole lot of sense. It's not the best foundation to work on. And I'm curious about the government because we have this split here between the president and vice president. That's something that I find especially interesting because it makes me wonder how they ended up on the same side to begin with. Same cabinet is the term I would end up using if this was America, but I don't know how they run it there. Maybe it's one of those things where whoever's second place gets to be vice president. Maybe it's one of those things. In systems like that, you could definitely find somebody who's not necessarily on your side by your side, or maybe it's one of those things where they got together because they were different ethnic groups and they could appeal to more people together, but when it came down to it, they had some differences that just blew up in their face. This is a really good introduction, really. Salmonella, he does comedy or whatever when it comes to history, but he does make for a good introduction to things sometimes. He can really draw you in and make you think about things. And it's weird when you see comedy mixed with history, and sometimes it's hard to take it seriously, but I think it's one of the most brilliant things that somebody can do. Things like Salmonella, things like oversimplified, things like drunk history or whatever. Vulgar or not, I think that's probably a more effective teacher than a lot of the drier ways of approaching history. So I'm down with this. So if any of you have anything else you want me to check out, salmonella videos or otherwise, leave them in the comments section below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow with another video. All right.